Howdy folks, we're going to start getting back on the Z1-R. This is the Z1-R frame, as you can see, and a couple of swing arms, or two swing arms. Now, I'm going to go into that here in a second. What I want to explain briefly, I don't know exactly how this is all going to lay out video-wise, but I'm going to end up most likely shooting this piece by piece and then patching it together at a later time. No guarantees on that, though. I may interject some of these videos into other either related or non-related videos at that time, hoping to get this all together into more of a succinct part of the playlist for the Z1-R. With that said, here's what we're going to be covering in this particular segment. As you can see, we have the returned powder-coated frame from the powder coaters, and I'll state for the record, I hate powder coating. I wouldn't have done this if it was me. I would have shot this with the appropriate amount of, or I should say this glossiness on a frame. I would have done some sort of thing like the a matte or a satin type thing, and then hit it with a clear, you know, even a satin clear, but a 2K clear, so it's fuel resistant and it has some, you know, chip resistance and things like this. When you go to put things back together, everything's got to be ground out and made to fit. It's just a pain in the ass. So what you hear in the background is rain. It's raining here today. There's apparently a cool or a cold front coming through. The dog is not happy, but at least he's not off gallivanting because he hates the rain. Here's the plan. Number one, there before you is the original swing arm that came with this. I don't know why it's chrome. Somebody chromed the original one at some time. Okay. The one past it, and I'll show you that from the other side here, is the one the customer wants on it. Now, according to him, this is the most common swing arm modification to be done on a Z1-R if it was done at a particular time after, you know, during the period of time, like let's say the 80s, you know, 90s, or even up to today. And this is a GS 1150 ES or GS 1150S Suzuki rear, you know, of course, swing arm, rear swing arm. So they call it the swinging arm. I guess they are a little happier over there on Suzuki side. Swingers. That's what he wants on here. Now he says that this will fit as far as the width goes. I can't really test that yet because I'm missing parts. We have these bushings, these side bushings that go on swing arms, and pretty much all of them have these. This one was missing one. I drove one out just to take a look at it. The needle bearing is damaged on this side. This one looks pretty complete, but what I ended up doing was I ended up ordering I think 2 new needle bearings for it. I also don't have the bushings that go inside here. This would be the bushings that actually ride on the pivot or axle, whatever you want to call it, and then so I ordered those as well. Now I had to order the Suzuki ones because here's where it gets a little complicated. The Suzuki ones are the appropriate ones for the OD of the pins or the bushings to match the ID of this these needle bearings. I have to go with the OEM stuff on the Suzuki side up to that point. I also got one of these. It's coming out of the UK. The only other way to buy them was in packs of 4 for an ungodly amount on eBay, and I don't need 4 of them, so I just need one. So I got it out of the UK, and it's coming. So once I get this other one, needle bearings and the sleeves, I guess you want to call them. They call them bushings, they're really sleeves, that go inside this swing arm, we can mock this one up. But before we do that, we have to put the original one back on. I'll take the torque arm off. It doesn't really need to be there, that guy right there. And put the shocks on it and just get some very accurate measurements from some reference points on the frame. I'm not sure what those are going to be yet. And the reason why is I need to be able to at least figure on duplicating certain things like offsets, because I don't know where this is going to fall as far as the back inside left here of this swing arm to that one, which is going to play a role in the offset of the wheel, which is going to play a role in the offset of the rear sprocket. It all kind of goes together here. But all right, so what we're going to do first is, again, to get this one back together without damaging the frame at all, chipping it up, start taking some measurements, the best we can do at this point. So let me get that torque arm off because I don't need it. It's in the way right now. And we'll take it from there. You know, I think I need a new 14 gear wrench here. It's behaving kind of like my dingus nowadays. Is that too much? While I'm doing this, I'll kind of explain the rest of it here. I have everything set up for the triple tree to get the front forks back on, because ultimately what I want to do here is get this to a rolling chassis. And I got the wheels. The wheels are out in the shed. The axles, all that stuff. And so again, rolling chassis is the goal here. But of course I can't do a rolling chassis until I get this rear swing arm thing taken care of. Now I have never done a modification like this. I will tell you right up front that I'm working at this you know, piece by piece, just using normal logical procedures here. I mean, I fabricated a lot of stuff. That sidecar is pretty much all custom fabricated, and the front end's custom. So if I trust that with my life, I'm sure I can handle figuring this out. I'm not going to be doing any of the welding, of course, on the aluminum. I don't have that capability. So once we get to that point, which is why we're going to be doing a bunch of measurements on this swing arm to get the angle of the dangle for the shock absorbers. Actually, they go here. Shock absorbers. We're going to have a welder that I know go ahead and weld some sort of tabs on there to accommodate the shocks, because we're not doing a mono shock. You know, the easiest way to do this, of course, would probably be to modify this frame. Too late, right? To accommodate a monoshock, but I would never even remotely agree to modify a frame on a D1. There's just no way I'm going to do it, because these are too rare. Customer agreed with that. So we're going to do this without any frame modifications whatsoever. The only modifications that are going to occur are on the swing arm, that one, and this one will remain, you know, nominal. There won't be any issue or changes to it whatsoever. Again, this is only for measuring to prepare for mocking up on the other one. All right, so let's keep going. But I want to set this up exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that way I can get a really good idea as to what the measurements are. I also got to get this stupid tape off of these lugs. This shit is, once it's baked on here, it is just a pain in the ass. So I got to scrape this crap off. The shocks are around here somewhere. They may actually be in the shed. I'm not sure. No, they're in here. And then we'll get this all hooked up here. Do a reach around, a classic reach around. The other side's 22. I don't know what this gets torqued to normally, but for mock-up purposes, this is going to be perfectly fine. And we don't have hardly any lateral movement because of that being pulled together a little bit. Moves freely up and down, so that's good. I'm liking it so far as what our intended purposes are for mocking this thing up. Mock it! Alright, stop screwing around. Let me get some goo on these so these go on a little easier. I'm telling you folks, silicone grease like this is the KY jelly of putting big things into tight holes on your motorsport. And yes, I am a dirty son of a bitch. On this side, this one gets the grab rail. It's on the left side of the bike. This would be where it normally goes, so it takes up some real estate on this stud to make it proper length as far as exposing the threads, but we're not going to worry about that right now and just put on some washers. There are some in the bag here for this, but just for the purposes of mock-up, we're just going to washer it up. Oops. Good. Set it up where I can measure it better. I moved you. You were in the way, so let's get started here. Now, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do as far as measuring from point to point here, besides just kind of logical reasoning here, because I want essentially two axes, up and down, side to side. Side to side will give me some offsets. The offsets are probably going to be more important than any length reference, because that swing arm is longer. I don't know how much longer it is. We'll make some references anyway, basically to the center of the adjustment range. That from this one, at least it'll give us an idea. You know, everything that I'm measuring right now is really just a reference. So, but as far as this kind of offset from like a known side of the frame here, I have a nice flat of this lug that I can lay a straight edge against and go against that, and then use that as a reference for the offset left to right. Okay, so basically, if I do drawing here of the actual swing arm in this regard, something to write with, man. Got 5,000 pens out here and I can't find one. Well, it ain't Watch West Work, so, but it'll do us. We'll call this halfway in between the adjustment range here. We'll have to pick one of the lines. Doesn't really matter. Reference only. I think what we'll do is we'll just pick up the center line of the pivot. We can also do this. This is a pretty good idea, don't you think? Put a little Starrett square there with a clamp. That'll give us the rough center line, or actually more than rough, closer than rough. Center line from the, so this would be the center of the pivot to the middle of the adjustment range on the original which is, again, just for reference only, 19 and... I'm going imperial here. Sorry, metric folks. Or bananas, as Curtis from Cutting Edge Engineering would call it. 19 and 5/8 bananas. 19 and 5/8 bananas. Perfect. So we'll use that. Since I have a nice flat surface to put the straightage up against, we'll just... The straightedge? Jesus. The straight edge up against. We'll go with 1 3/4 bananas. 1.750 bananas. Yeah, good enough. Well, I went to a party, and what did they do? They took off their hat, and they took off their shoes. They took off their shirts, and they took off their pants. I got a hunch they weren't gonna dance. This side is 1.5 inches, so there is a little difference on that side. But again, it's a reference, so whatever. Now, really what I want to know at this point, since I got length, I've got offset or width kind of, and I want height now. So X, Y, Z, I want the Z or the Z. I don't understand why weirdos in other parts of the world call Z axis Z. Why don't you just call it Z? I mean, do they call like a old 280Z or a Z1 or Z1? It ain't freaking Z, it's Z. Give me a break. So let's see, where are we going to get a reference to? Well, we ultimately want the center of the where the axle is going to sit. As far as up here goes, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to use for a known spot to get a measurement on. Let me think about this. I'm just going to lay a level across up here and then just measure from the edge of the level down. This is 17.5 inches right to there, because we just want to know what it is now, and then when we go to do this one, we can figure it out using these numbers to see how it lines up. Yeah, let's call it the same, 17.5. Good. All right, so I got my, my notes made on this part. It's probably all I'm going to need. There's no sense in doing any cross or angle measurements. That's going to be what it is. We'll calculate. That's 9 inches even. So we'll just make a reference to that. But the thing is, what we're going to do in regards to the location or the angle of these shocks compared to that swing arm, because the swing arm's longer. So in other words, if we picked up a spot from the middle of the, let's say the middle of the adjustment here, and into the center line of that lower shock mount, that's going to be different on this one because it's longer. In other words, the shock would actually be angled out like that in that situation. So I think what we're going to end up doing is I'll make a notation of the distance between this shock mount, lower shock mount, and the center line of the pivot, and then we can duplicate that on that one, or at least when we mock it up and try it and see if that's right, because if we change the angle of this, we are going to change the ride height. We're also going to change slightly change the action of the engineered spring rate and so forth, and dampening of these shocks. So, we can adjust for that by changing the shocks out, but again, I'm mocking this up using the original shocks here. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to measure each one of these to the center of the pivot, make a notation of it, and then I think that's going to be on the measurements of this thing. Hey, Saturday the 18th of December, and I'm up here in Brooksville, Florida at the, what is this place called? The Coney Island Drive-In. So here we are. We're doing a Vintage Japanese Motorcycle Club, the 22nd annual Christmas ride, Florida Christmas ride. So take you on a little tour of what we got up here so far and show you some bikes. A lot of the stuff that I work on. Oh yeah. H1 Kawasaki, 2-smoke, triple. Now if you go on Alan, what's his name's channel? I'll put his, and I'll put a link to it in here. He is working on one right now. He's putting the videos up on, because he converts these things from like 3 cylinders to 6 cylinders, and so he's doing a 4-cylinder version of this based on the H1, the 500cc motor. You need to check it out. He does all the, I can't describe it. How he does it is pretty amazing. So basically, yeah, it is pretty cool stuff. Suzuki GS 1100E. Nice ride. I'm not sure the year. Find out later. Okay, here's the CBXs. Got 2 of them sitting here. I remember when these came out, these CBXs. Pretty amazing machines. Technologically speaking, I've never worked on one. Frankly, I really don't want to. I've read some of the service data on them, and it's pretty nasty. All the different stuff you got to do to make them work, but pretty neat. Super Sport. 6 carbs, 6 cylinders. GS 850 Suzuki. That's a nice, cruiser style for just bebopping around. Decent size, 850 cc's. Something that can actually work very well with a sidecar, in my opinion. It's got a nice frame, mounting points. You could build a subframe for it if necessary. And you can see that there's a crash bar here, so see a crash bar there. It's a good mounting point, or you could fabricate some. These cruiser styles are actually pretty good for sidecars because of the rake, the front. I should say the trail. The trail is conducive for sidecar and trike mounting as opposed to more of a sporty, setup. So that's a whole nother video, though. We'll have to do another video on that one. Virago. This looks like a first generation. They didn't sell very well because they were basically pretty ugly. And yeah, I think it's one of these things where beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I'm not terribly fancy about them myself, but I don't fancy them terribly myself. Can't go wrong with a 554. These 4-cylinder, these small bore 4-cylinders are just absolutely bomb-proof. They're really an interesting, miniature design of the CB750, really, and very, very easy to work on. Yeah, really cool. I like these old machines, so I work on these once in a while, but not lately. A nice bike. I like these 550s as well. A good mid-size, and just a miniature version of the 750, really. So it's good all-around vintage Japanese bike that's starting to get some value increases. There's another one right next to it. It's probably 82s, I'm thinking, or 83s, based on the color scheme. What year are these GPZs, do you know?
This is an 84.
Oh, 84, okay.
That's probably an 81 or 82.
Yeah, the color is exactly the same. I'm kind of surprised they regurgitated it over that span of years.
Look at the difference there in the monoshock. And
Oh, yeah, I see that. You're right. Look at that.
I have one of these. I know that's an
Yeah. Now, I wasn't aware of that. Learned something new. Look at that. So that's an 84, got a monoshock. And then 81 or so. One related to the Water Buffalo, Suzuki GT 550. I kind of like the 750, but same thing, 2-smoke. This one's not water cooled like the 750, the Water Buffalo, but it's, like I said, it's related to it. So you have an air, I don't think it's even air oil, looks like it's air cooled, 2-smoke, triple. It's like the H1 that we were looking at before, Kawasaki. So yeah, pretty cool. I love these old 2-smokes, man. There ain't nothing like them. I hope I get to ride behind this guy because the smell is incredible. This is a nice CB750. It's a 74. The bike that started it all, really. 74 is a nice year for it. I've worked on a couple of these as well. And it's nice when they're unmodified too. So you got the original airbox, original carbs. And they get potted and manipulated otherwise. I don't, not my style really, but yeah, nice bike. 74. Let's see how many miles it has on it. It's 3,400 miles on it. So there you go, not bad. Nice bike. I like these. So I would say the only modification really he's got is the exhaust. Looks like it's a 4-in-1. But other than that, Yeah, well, I don't really blame them for doing that, but you know, the heavily modified stuff on a CB, dime a dozen on those. This is tasteful. It's a water-cooled Bandit. I think he said it's a 650 or something, 400. I can't remember. He said it predates the 1200s. I didn't even know they had a water-cooled Bandit, so it's something I'll have to look into. It predates the 1200 and the S model 1200S.
Yeah.
Which 1200 did you have, the S or the naked? The one with the fairing or not?
I had the one with the little quarter fairing.
Yeah, that's a.
I think they only made that one 1 year. I don't think in '97 they had the one that was naked, totally naked.
Yeah, well.
I think that was only 1 year they did that.
Yeah.
They always had that.
I said, what year is it?
1979.
So this is 79. I have a.
XS11.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel. I do motorcycle repair, so I do some side things like when I go to shows and things. Yeah, so I love the 79. This is a great bike. I love these bikes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't find mufflers or nothing for them anymore. So.
Well, I've had some luck with some very challenging finds over the years, but sometimes you do draw a blank, and you gotta just basically adapt and overcome.
Stainless.
I like that. Almost looks powder coated.
Well, it's got ceramic coating.
Ceramic, yeah. It looks. My first thought was it was powder coated. I'm like, how could that be? It would burn off.
Back in the 80s, when I didn't know too much about carbs, they were all blue. Like
Oh
that.
yeah.
That means you need to synchronize them better, but I didn't know any better. So.
Well, they're all going to be a little bit blue, usually about up here. Oh, it's a super trap too. Nice.
But it was all stainless, and I paid $360 for that brand new.
That's nice.
Back then.
Wow. Super trap too, and I like the adjustable.
Change those shims.
Yeah, the shims for like the baffling and stuff, the back pressure. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I just love these XS11s. I really do. What did Yamaha do? They use Makinis, right? Yeah, they use Makinis on them. Makini CVs. It's just got a good smell, It's got that old Yamaha smell to it. Can't beat it.
Better weather. So coming back here, and wind up here, yeah. 75 miles, I need that. Here we go.